SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, it was just delayed. Fuel prices hiked from midnight. A clean candidate. The United National Party pledges to put forth a candidate with an unblemished record. Fog of politics. Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca backs Gotabaya. Tea matters. Private sector stakeholders take matters into their own hands.
We are mature. We know what we have to do.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 13th of August, 2019.
Nama Lifebuoy Cool Fresh සහ Lemon Fresh Menthol සහ Lemon සාරයෙන් 10 ගඳ ඇති කරන සංගුණ විස බීජ වලින් ආරක්ෂා කර ඔබව fresh කරයි. විස බීජ off, fresh එක on.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Ekanaika. Let's start with your local stories. Fuel prices have been revised with effect from midnight today in accordance with the monthly fuel price revision. Accordingly, the price of a litre of Sipetco's Octane 92 petrol will be increased by 2 rupees, while the price of a litre of Octane 95 petrol has been increased by 4 rupees. Therefore, the revised price of Octane 92 and Octane 95 will be 138 rupees and 163 rupees respectively. Furthermore, the price of a litre of super diesel will be increased by 3 rupees, bringing the price up to 134 rupees. Now, in the meantime, issuing a communique today, Lanka Indian Oil Company too decided to increase the price of extra premium 95 petrol by 4 rupees per litre, while the price of super diesel will be increased by 3 rupees per litre from midnight. The communique went on to say that the company has decided not to increase the prices of diesel despite absorbing huge losses. UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion or belief, Ahmed Shahid will carry out an official visit to Sri Lanka from the 15th to the 26th of August. Issuing a communique today, Shahid said the visit will be an opportunity for him to have an open exchange with the government to try to gain a better understanding of how rights of freedom of religion and belief is upheld in the island. Furthermore, the Special Rapporteur will examine progress made in the implementation of recommendations during the visit of the former UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion or Belief, Asma Jahangir, in 2005. He will also aim to identify any existing or emerging obstacles to the enjoyment of the freedom of religion or belief in Sri Lanka by all and will present recommendations aimed at overcoming such obstacles. Meanwhile, an European Union delegation comprising of Policy Officer, Democracy and Electoral Observation, Ricardo Chaleri, as well as Deputy Head of Political Trade Communication Section, met with the leader of the Tamil National Alliance, MPR Sambandhan, yesterday in Colombo. Briefing the delegation, Sambandhan highlighted the need for the abolishment of the executive presidency, which he says has been the verdict of the people for over 25 years at elections, and in this context, holding another presidential election is a deceitful act. Sambandhan further noted that at this juncture, what has to be decided is whether to participate in this process or not. The TNA MP also brought up issues surrounding the drafting of the new constitution, which he says has now been put aside. Now, recently declared presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramuna Gotabaya Rajapaksa arrived in Anuradhapura last evening. A number of religious events were organised centred on Atamasthana today.
The leader of Sri Lanka, Podujana Peramuna, opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa and its recently nominated presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa arrived at the historic city of Anuradhapura last evening and called on the Viharadhikari of Ruwanvali Mahasaya and the chief priest of Nuvara Kalabiya region, Venerable Pallegama Hemarathana Thera. There were religious observances to incur blessings on the presidential candidate of the SLPP with the participation of 1,500 members of the Buddhist clergy.
There is a void for a virtuous and a strong leader in the country today, and the country is asking for one such leader. Most of them think that Gotabaya Rajapaksa is suitable to fill that void.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa mahata sudusu yai kalpana karanawa.
Meanwhile, today, opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa called on Atmasthanathipati and the High Priest of the North Central Province, Most Venerable Dr. Pallegama Srinivasa Nayaka Thera this morning. They also engaged in religious observances at the Jayashri Mahabodhi.
People have already handed over the country to you, and everyone is ready to elect you as the president. We bless you to achieve that victory on this land of victory. We believe that you will be elected as the president of this country with a majority unlike any other leader in history.
The opposition leader and the SLPP's presidential candidate also called on the Viharadhikari of Miriswatiya, Venerable Ithila Vatunuvawe Gnanathilaka Nayaka Thera.
We're sure that the blessings that come with creating a peaceful environment for the people of this country, you have Mahinda Rajapaksa's maturity to assist you.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa then called on the Viharadhikari of Lankaramaya and the Adhikarana Sanganayaka of the North Central Region, Venerable Ralapanave Dhammajoti Nayaka Thera.
I think former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa is a gift from God. People have high hopes that you will bring relief to their sorrows. The other thing is the national security. We're sure that you will have an excellent victory. You have to be dedicated for this, and you'll surely have the votes of Buddhists as well as people from other ethnicities.
The presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna then arrived at the Sri Lanka Sambuddha Jayanti temple.
You had to endure insults for rescuing this country from a 30-year conflict. It's not because of any other personal issue. You have to build up this country because you are a prudent leader.
A ceremony to welcome SLPP's presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa was also held in Kakirava. Yet another ceremony to welcome him was worked off in Bulagala Junction in Matle. Gotabaya Rajapaksa then attended another welcoming ceremony in Dambulla town.
Now, UNP parliamentarian Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca is of the view that SLPP's decision to choose former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa as their presidential candidate is a good decision when considering that prominence must be given to national security. Fonseca also claims that only 50% of suspected terrorists in the Easter Sunday attacks have been arrested so far. The bombings took place on the 21st of April because those who are responsible for national security didn't fulfill their duties. During the March of 2018, I was nominated as the Minister of Law and Order, but that was rejected with various excuses given. Had I been given that responsibility that day, this devastating incident would not have happened. The National Security Council had convened only 8 times during the whole year of 2018, and in 2019 it was held only during 2 occasions in January and February. During my tenure of 3 years and 9 months as the Army Commander, the National Security Council was held every Wednesday at 10 a.m. As per information received, only 50% of the suspects who had terror training were arrested. There are almost 130 individuals who have been identified and only 60 have so far been arrested. Even today, no strategy is in place to eradicate terrorism in this country. Those who are responsible with national security is focused on politics. There are 2 presidential candidates at the moment. One had been chosen by the party while the other proclaims himself to be the presidential candidate from his party. At one meeting, it was said that the salaries of everyone will be increased to 50,000 rupees. Are they going to print money legally to achieve that target? And another says that the number of poor is higher than the rich, so money from the rich must be distributed among the poor. Do we have Robin Hoods now? Do not be deceived over such claims. And then someone says he will carry forward his father's work. That father gave weapons to terrorists in 1980s and in 1990s. And when the war started, 600 police officers were ordered to surrender themselves to terrorists. Karunaman was sitting right in front of that meeting and he massacred all of those police officers. It will be a dangerous thing to follow, that father. SLPP chose Gotabaya after considering that national security must be a priority in the current political arena. Or else, they could have simply chosen Basil Rajapaksa with much more political experience as their candidate. I think their decision was right.
යම්කිසි විදිහකින් ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිව වුණොත් ඔබතුමාට කතා කරලා ආරක්ෂක ලේකම් ධූරයට වගකීමක් දුන්නොත් ඔබතුමා ඒක බාර ගන්න.
දැනුත් මට පණිවිඩය වෙනවා.
They still send me messages saying I should forget about the past and that I will be given a good ministry. I, however, just don't want to put myself in the same trouble as I did before.
මම ඉතින් දවල් වැටිච්ච වෙලේ ආයි රැ වැටෙන්නේ නැහැ.
දැන් ඔබතුමා සමග සමකාලීනව හමුදාපති ධූර දරුවෝ අනිත් දෙදෙනාටත් එම ධූරයම ලබා දුන්නා. ඒක ඔබට තියෙන සතුටක්ද?
මමත් ෆීල්ඩ් මාෂල් කෙනෙක් හින්දා.
It is not ethical for me to criticize this as a field marshal, but I am not happy about those individuals being given these titles because those honours must be deserving. I think those titles were downgraded.
ඒ තනතුර ඇල්ලුවට ලක් වුණා කියලා මගේ මතය.
Now, in the meantime, Chairman of the United National Party, Kabir Hashim, says that the United National Party will present a presidential candidate who has never been accused in a court of law or in public. Issuing a communique today, Hashim pointed out that the candidate will be selected in a democratic manner and will be announced to the public very, very soon. Meanwhile, several UNP representatives continued to voice their support to parliamentarian or minister rather Sajith Premadasa as a presidential hopeful today as well. A group of former UNP provincial councillors in the Kandy district today expressed their support to Deputy Leader of the United National Party Sajith Premadasa as the presidential candidate. If you speak to 100 people within the Kandy district as well as across Sri Lanka, you will see that all of them will cast their vote to Sajith Premadasa if he is nominated. If not, they will abstain from voting. There are a few from the Flowerbud Party who are causing issues, but the Prime Minister will nominate Sajith Premadasa as the presidential candidate. If that does not happen, by hook or crook, we will ensure Sajith Premadasa is elected as the candidate. Meanwhile, issuing a communique today, Chairman of the United National Party, Minister Kabir Hashim, said that necessary measures have been taken to select a presidential candidate in a democratic manner and will be revealed to the public in the near future. It added that the candidate will be an individual who has never been accused in a court of law or public. The communique went on to say that the candidate is a person who is able to guide the future generation to a new world, who empathizes with the poor, well-read and respects the rule of law. Now, even though the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has already announced their presidential candidate, talks of a possible coalition between the SLFP and the SLPP are still underway. Members of both parties, however, insist that a conclusion is yet to be arrived at. You can't appoint a president without 6.5 million votes. Many went to the SLPP with about 5 million votes, which means they are short of 1.5 million votes. The UNP, on the other hand, has 3 million votes. No party can bring in a president without the votes of the SLFP. We are discussing with the SLPP while the president and the opposition leader are having talks. We will consider joining with them only after the conclusion of these talks. However, we will not let the SLFP be absorbed into the SLPP. Following a meeting at the headquarters of the SLFP today, Secretaries General of both SLFP and the UPFA had this to say. That decision is not taken by me, but the Central Committee of the party. I'm not scared of what parliamentarians Dilan Pereira and SB Dissanayake, who went to the convention, say. They have been appointed MPs with the support of the Pradesha Sabha members. They have no right to violate the discipline of the party, and we did say that we will take action to remove them from the party. It would be better if they fall in line with the decisions of the party, because they had taken advantage of the national list and so on. It is not declared that the SLFP will not join SLPP, so discussions are underway and we must not be impatient until it comes to a conclusion. Now, with all that said, UPFA parliamentarian Dr. Sarath Amunugama expresses a rather contradictory view regarding the decision of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He says that the party has made a decision to support the presidential candidate of the SLPP, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, during the upcoming presidential election.
Sri Lanka Nidahas Pakshaya
SLFP decided to support the SLPP's candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa during the upcoming presidential election because our party has always been a political entity which was against the UNP. It's true that we joined hands with the UNP during the 2015 presidential election while preserving the identity as the SLFP. However, that experience was an unpleasant one. It also proved that we must work with a coalition which is against the UNP. Members of the SLPP have been working with us for a long time, so we can work together. As a camp against the UNP, the SLFP will support Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who is a good candidate.
ඉතාම හොඳ අපේක්ෂකයෙක් වන ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාට අපේ සහයෝගය දෙන්න.
Now, in a separate development, Minister Navin Dissanayake says that the Tamil people must be given a political solution by giving land and police powers as mentioned in the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The minister's remarks came yesterday as he addressed an event in Mullaitivu. Concepts related to land that existed in the 60s and 80s are not the ones that prevail today. We, the politicians of the younger generation, don't intend to take over even an inch of land that belongs to the Tamil people. Moreover, we should provide a political solution to the Tamil people. My personal opinion is that Tamil people must be given full police and land powers as mentioned in the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. I believe, following a referendum in areas where there is a Sinhala majority, their consensus can be sought for a fair solution.
We're
going to move in for a short break, and when we come back, there'll be more news waiting. Now, private sector of Sri Lanka's tea industry has come together to achieve an ambitious annual foreign exchange of $3.5 billion come 2030. Not only that, they also plan to push the annual tea production to 350 million kilograms. Speaking to First at 9, former chairman of the Colombo Tea Traders Association, Michael de Souza, said that stakeholders in the sector have come together to draw a 2030 roadmap to revitalise the 152-year-old industry, which is faced with numerous challenges. Key proposals put forth in the roadmap are investment in research and development, as well as gaining control of promotion marketing funds of the Sri Lanka Tea Board, which he says is best left in the hands of the private sector.
The tea industry has played an important role in terms of its economic contribution to the national output, accounting for about 14% of total exports in the island and 62% of total agriculture exports in Sri Lanka. Numerous concerns, however, have been raised by the private sector in the industry, especially with regard to inadequate support for the small and medium sector, which produce 75% of tea in the island. Speaking to First at 9, former chairman of the Colombo Tea Traders Association, Michael De Zoiza, said that a group comprising of private companies, representatives from the Tea Research Institute, Sri Lanka Tea Board, experts and veterans have come together to develop a 2030 roadmap for the overall development of the industry, which has been impacted by climate change, dearth in labour and lack of research and development.
The smallholder produce 75% of the made tea. We have to first help them and the regional plantation companies with refurbishing the soil. The soil in this country is denuded, eroded. There has to be a lot of replanting, infilling. The question is, how do we go about it? And that's what we are trying to do through our roadmap. We have to go on to research and development, which is required to come up with the right, what are called cultivars or tea bushes, so that they are drought resistant and monsoon resistant, because we have extreme weather now. And then we have to plant the tea bushes in a manner where they can be easily plucked, because there is a problem in the industry. We have a shortage of labor. All around the world, people are coming up with food laws which are in some senses not quite fair. With tea, countries like Japan, Germany, Taiwan are insisting on 0.01 parts per million. Much harder to get through. So we have to, through the TRI and the Sri Lanka Tea Board, approach all the countries that we sell tea to so that they can understand what is permissible and what is not.
According to official data from the central bank, tea production has remained at a yearly average of around 300 million kilograms between 2008 and 2017. Just last year, tea production dropped from 307.1 million kilograms in 2017 to 303.8 million kilograms. When taking a look at the export performance between 2009 and 2018, it is evident that exports have stagnated between 1 and 1.5 billion US. In a bid to address this issue, De Zoiza says that one of the goals set out in the roadmap aims to double this number by achieving 3.5 billion US in tea exports by 2030.
We need to be able to control the promotion and marketing funds currently controlled by the Sri Lanka Tea Board. Target is by 2030 350 million kilos, and whilst we earn around 1.5 to 1.6 billion US dollars, the target is to get to 3.5 billion dollars by 2030. You do that by your marketing spend, which brings more people into drinking tea, which therefore brings a better price for the tea at the auction, and where you can actually price your teas as it is. Part of our roadmap is to get control of our industry. We are mature. We know what we have to do, but we don't have the funds. But we are going to generate funds by everybody in the industry uniting and contributing a sum of money per kilo, yet to be agreed upon, and that will come through the workshops that follow. And we will bring forward a working paper which we will put to the government and to the parties contesting the elections to take it as a part of their manifesto. The government takes an export duty, the government takes a cess, the government takes promotion funds, and we are capable of managing those funds. They can have the export duty. We want people to be able to come into the Tea Research Institute wanting to innovate, because there's no incentive in bureaucratic circles to bring in the best brains.
Moving on with other stories, the American Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka held a roundtable discussion this morning with Acting U.S. Assistant Secretary of South and Central Asian Affairs Alice G. Wells, U.S. Ambassador for Sri Lanka Elena B. Teplitz and key officials from the U.S. Embassy. The discussion, held with member companies of the American Chamber of Commerce, focused on opportunities for greater economic collaboration, highlighted feedback from the private sector on current business challenges faced, and explored opportunities to expand partnerships, investments and two-way trade under the Indo-Pacific strategy, especially between the United States and Sri Lanka. Wells is currently engaged in an 11-day visit to the South Asian region, where she will be holding bilateral consultations on issues of mutual interest with senior government officials, in addition to meetings with business leaders and members of civil society. And now to bring you a market update, the Sri Lankan shares closed marginally higher today, easing from early gains of 1.2%. The all-share price index gained 1.26% as soon as trading resumed today. The index ended 0.1% firmer at 5,949.3 with a market turnover of 2.69 billion rupees. We now have a brief report on how the markets performed today.
The bond market, the primary bill auction held today. The 3 months bill was accepted at a weighted average of 7.8, and while the 6 months was rejected after the 5 months. And furthermore, reversing the previous trend, the benchmark 1 year bill increased for the first time in 6 months by 6 basis points to accept at the weighted average of 8.17. The stock market, the market witnessed surge reaching an intraday high of 6,018 within the first 15 minutes of trading. Thereafter, the steady downtrend was witnessed and stabilized around 5,960 level and prior to close at 5,949, gaining 6 points.
Now taking a look at currency, the Sri Lankan rupee ended at 176 rupees and 90 cents to 177 rupees against the US dollar, compared with Friday's close of 176 rupees and 75 to 95 cents. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies around the globe. We have international news on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Just at 9. Hong Kong International Airport today resumed operations a day after all flights were cancelled due to a protest. The website of the airport authority, however, said that over 200 flights in and out of Hong Kong have been cancelled. Passengers have been advised to pay attention to the latest flight information through the airport's website and its mobile app. In the meantime, Hong Kong's Chief Executive Carrie Lam today condemned the current riots in the region, stressing that violence will plunge Hong Kong into a deep abyss where the city will be smashed to pieces.
Speaking at a media briefing, Hong Kong's chief executive Carrie Lam said violent activists have committed large-scale vandalism over the past week, like blocking railways and airport, leaving many people affected. A total of 238 flights in and out of the Hong Kong International Airport were cancelled yesterday. The chief executive said violence is damaging Hong Kong's rule of law, adding that assaulting police and their officers was unacceptable as the city's 30,000-strong force is responsible for upholding the rule of law. Lam said the priority for Hong Kong right now is to stop violence and restore the rule of law and order, and once that is achieved, sincere dialogue and the rebuilding of harmony in society can begin. She also said Hong Kong had already been badly torn apart and the city will need a very long time to recover. Radical protests against the controversial fugitive transfer bill in Hong Kong have continued for more than 2 months. Though the bill has long been pronounced dead, violent demonstrations persist.
The United States would enthusiastically support a no-deal Brexit if that's what the British government decides to do. US National Security Advisor John Bolton made the remark yesterday during a visit to London aimed at reassuring Britain over UK-US ties. Bolton told British Prime Minister Boris Johnson that President Donald Trump wants to see a successful British exit from the European Union on the 31st of October and that Washington will be ready to work fast on a US-UK free trade agreement. Johnson wants the EU to renegotiate the terms of Britain's exit ahead of a 31st of October departure date, but EU says it will not alter the part of the deal Johnson says must be changed. The impasse leaves Britain facing an exit without any formal transition period or legal agreement covering issues such as trade, data transfers and border policy. Bolton in London for 2 days for talks is seeking an improved US-British relationship with Johnson after sometimes tense ties between Trump and Johnson's predecessor Theresa May. Now, Andy Murray announced today that yesterday he would not play singles at the US Open after losing his long-awaited return from his hip surgery at the Cincinnati Masters. The Scot lost 6-4, 6-4 to Richard Gasquet in his first singles match since January, before saying he had turned down a wild card into the men's draw at the year's final Grand Slam. He, however, indicated that he would play doubles and mixed doubles at Flushing Meadows in 2 weeks and left the door open for the possibility of taking part in Winston-Salem. In his first match since the hip's resurfacing surgery, which he hopes will prolong his career, Murray started tentatively but improved as the match went on, even if he was always up against it after Gasquet broke his serve to start both sets. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.